I think one of the best foundational stories that I've heard you talk about is Kobe. And I can't have a conversation without mentioning Kobe, because he's somebody that everybody has respect for when they watch the Mamba mentality and that work ethic. And it's special. I watch my kids watching videos of him, and and we know these guys are different. They're just uniquely different. But if you could give us maybe one story that stands out to you when it comes to Kobe, and one of the things I'm looking for, just a second part, is all the little things. That's all I want to say. Just all the little things, and I want to let you go on that, because I love the connection to Kobe that you had, and how this really goes into our listeners and what they do every day.
Well, I have a signature story that I tell 9 times out of 10. It's my opening story anytime I take stage, because the lesson that I deemed from it is really the foundation to my life's philosophy and my perspective on what it is that I share. What I'll do is kind of give you a Cliff Notes version of that,
Sure.
Give you a couple of extra additions to it. And then if anyone's interested in seeing the more theatrical version, they can go to my YouTube channel. I had a chance to meet Kobe for the first time in 2007. Nike had brought me in to be the performance coach for a new series they were calling their Summer Skills Academies. And they did a camp based around Kobe. And they brought in the top high school and college players from around the country for this camp. It's my evaluation that in 2007, Kobe was the best player in the game. And I had a chance to watch one of his really early morning workouts before camp. I mean, to the tune of, it started around 3:30 in the morning. And I remember as a younger coach being really surprised at what he was doing. I expected to see a lot of flash, a lot of sizzle, a lot of sexiness in the drills he was doing. And instead, he was doing very basic drills. I mean, he was pounding away at the fundamentals. I mean, he was doing stuff, I kid you not, that I had taught to middle school age players. Now, he was doing it with an unparalleled level of focus and intensity and precision, but the drills he was actually doing were very basic. And this surprised me so much that later that day at camp, I needed to know why. My curiosity overwhelmed me. And I went up to him later that day at camp and I said, Kobe, you're the best player in the world. Why were you doing such basic drills this morning? And I remember it like it was yesterday, and it still makes the hairs on my neck stand up. He smiled that $1 million smile. He gave me a very friendly wink, but he said in a serious tone, why do you think I'm the best player in the world? Because I never get bored with the basics. And that phrase, I never get bored with the basics, changed everything for me. It was one of a handful of epiphanal moments that I've had in my life. And, one of the lessons I pull from that is just because something is basic, it doesn't mean it's easy. See, those are not synonyms, and yet people mistakenly use those words as if they're interchangeable, but they don't mean the same thing. What it takes to be good in anything, in basketball, in business, and being a podcast host, are very basic principles. But executing them every single day consistently is never easy. Because if it was easy, everyone else would be doing it. So, that was a powerful lesson for me, because it reminded me, if the best player in the world is going to focus on the fundamentals, then I probably should be as well. No matter what area of my life I'm trying to improve, I try to stick to a core handful of fundamentals, and I try to work towards mastery of them during the unseen hours. There's a handful of things that I believe make an extraordinary keynote speaker. Those are the things that I work on. And there are a handful of things that I think make for a really connected, loving father to my children. Those are the things that I work on. So that was a really, really powerful lesson. And I came to find out in a later conversation with Kobe that the reason he chose to get up so early and work out was, in his words, he said, the most dedicated and driven NBA players are going to work out twice a day during the off season. And if I only do what they do, then I'm not going to create much separation. I have to do more than they do. So in order for me to squeeze in another workout, I got to get up pretty darn early, because I'll be coming home from the gym from workout number 1, and they're just coming to the gym for workout number 1. I'm coming, and he'll always be one step ahead. And I think that was integral to his Mamba mentality. But I do want to make a huge disclaimer, and I make this whether I'm talking to young athletes or folks in the business world. I don't want the lesson of that to be that more is better. That if working a 12-hour day is good, working a 16-hour day is better. Because in most areas of life, I don't believe more is better. I believe better is better. I'm
Right.
always a quality over quantity type guy. But the reason that I liked it was Kobe identified a way that he thought he could gain an advantage, and he went all in with that. And that's what I think is most important from that part of his mentality. It's not about just doing more. You know, I would imagine most people listening to this that are high performers probably already do a little bit too much or work a little bit too much. If anything, they need to learn how to pull back.
Yeah.
And I know that's something I've tried to do. You know, I'll put my work ethic up against anyone, but I also know that I have a schedule that has appropriate harmony and flow. I block off time for self-care. I block off time to be with my children. I block off time for leisure. You know, I'm not checking my phone or my email at 10 o'clock at night because I'm about to go to bed and hopefully get some good sleep. You know, so I've tried to accomplish more by doing less. And to me, that's the ultimate freedom.
Well, and if you think about it, you know, I don't know your exact age, but I'm in my 40s, and I could tell you that most of the basketball players and professional athletes that we study and love, they're in their 20s and 30s at the time that we're interviewing them and talking about them. And you know what I did in my 20s and 30s is totally different than today. I have to prioritize and disciplined, systematic approaches to self-care and the other things, because if you don't, you'll never get it. You almost have to make it a part, because you'll lose yourself in the work. And that's what you're talking about. I want to tell you this quick story, because when we first booked your interview, I have two boys. They both play extremely competitive soccer, and I always share with them who I'm talking to, because I believe there are so many people out there that have unbelievable stories, unbelievable messages that, you know, are just that our kids may not hear about. But if I get in contact with them and I know who they are, I share the story. So I'm sharing who you are, what you've done. And I share one of the videos or something, that a podcast or something that you had done. And during I want to know if it was, I don't know if it was the end of the summer or whenever it was, but my youngest son, who's 13, who's already getting up every morning to work out prior to going to school, or even in the summertime, he gets up and goes. He's a little bit unique, which is another thing I want to talk about. But he said, Dad, he told me, I just sent him the videos, because if you do too much talking, they won't listen, right? So I sent him the video, goes, hey, I was thinking, you know, what Kobe said is, you know, everyone else this summer is going to be training once a day max. So if I do a morning and an afternoon workout, I don't feel like it's going to be too much. Do you? And I said, well, I mean, how do you feel? Do you like it? And he goes, yeah, I love it. And I said, as long as you love it, that's the difference. So there's a couple of key points there. Kobe loved what he did.
Yes.
And because he loved it, he invested in the practice. One of my really good friends played professional baseball for 17, 18 years in the majors. Special human when it comes to performance. And he says he loved the practice more than he loved the games. And so when you start talking to people that are high performers, and I use air quotes when I say high performers, because I will tell you right now, my wife is a teacher and a mom, and what she gets done in a day amazes me every day. If people don't think that's a high performer, you know, they're missing the point, because it's not just people in business and athletes. It is everyday people that do a boatload of stuff in a day, and they know how to fit it in because they're disciplined. They love what they do, and they love who they serve. So I wanted to tell you the story about my youngest son, because it was just an impact that a video that you put out there, and the story of sharing that allowed him to execute upon, and he brings it up and talks about it. And it's really cool.
Oh man. Well, as a fellow father, and I think we're very similar. So I'll be 47 coming up in January, and I have 12-year-old twin sons and a 10-year-old daughter. And yeah, so as a fellow father, boy, that story really warms my heart, and I really love that. I really commend your son's maturity for asking such an insightful question at that age, which is, you know, I kind of want to adopt this philosophy, but I want to make sure that I'm not doing too much. Hey, what do you think? Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. And
old soul. He's an old soul, Alan. That's the difference. Like some kids, my oldest son's like me. So he's very similar in the sense that I had to break it and figure it out first. You know, you tell me to do it. I don't believe you yet. I'm going to go test it. Then I'm going to tell you that I tested it and you were right. But it's rare. and the youngest is an old soul. He does what we do in our maybe our 30s and our 40s, where we actually say, hey, I can get from point A to point Z quicker if I listen to somebody else versus having to go break it on my own.
Oh man, I love that. Yeah, there's so much insight there. And I loved your primary takeaways and your thoughts on that as well. And I certainly love that you clarified that we perform in every area of our life. Most people hear the word performance and they think of actors and actresses or somebody on Broadway. They think of athletes, they think of musicians, someone playing in the orchestra.
Right.
And those are performances, but we perform in every area of our life. And one of the reasons I'm so passionate about the work I do is these tenets of high performance have such high utility that they apply to every area. I mean, everything we talk about will help a basketball player or a soccer player become better at their craft. They will help moms and dads parent more effectively and more in a more connected fashion. They'll help somebody be a better sales professional or an executive. You know, these things aren't compartmentalized, you know, and because I don't really believe excellence can be compartmentalized. You know, I think we need to keep the switch on. And I've always believed that the old cliche, how you do anything is how you do everything. And that if you have personal pride and you pay attention to details and you sweat the small stuff and you have a passion for what you do, that's going to exude in every area of your life.